Chairman. Mr. Secretary, thank you for being here today. I have had the opportunity to go to Cuba twice over the last 3 years, and it is my hope that that nothing that we do here will sabotage this possible bridge from the U.S. to Cuba. The Americans can go to North Korea. We can go to Russia. We can go to Venezuela. We can't go to Cuba. And the sad part about this, is, at least as far as I'm concerned, is that we are missing out on trade. I think the Netherlands and Canada are the chief trading partners with Cuba. And I think I have one company in my district, Cargill, that does business in Cuba, but other businesses are struggling with trying to find out what's going on with the normalization process so that they can try to do business in Cuba. But there are some problems. One, I guess the Ex-Im Bank is not presently guaranteeing loans to do business in Cuba. So, therefore, a lot of companies are going to be hesitant to do business with a country that's considered to be unstable without Ex-Im participating. Is that an accurate assessment on my part?
Congressman, the action that the administration took obviously was to try within the law, within the authorities we have, to remove restrictions that we thought were counterproductive and, if anything, working against the goal of getting the kind of change in Cuba that we all want, which is movement towards giving human rights and other issues of importance greater attention. I think that transactions between U.S. and Cuban parties will be governed by law, so that there will be things like food sales. One of the things that changes is that the payment terms will be easier for companies to comply with and for the purchasers to comply with. So I think that there will be some benefit to U.S. firms doing business in Cuba, but we haven't opened up all of the normal forms of support that exist in countries that we have normal relations with. We've been clear that Cuba still has a long way to go to make the changes that it has to make before we'd have that kind of conversation.
I agree that we're not there yet. In 1993. Cuba actually made the U.S. dollar legal tender. And then in my first year in the House in 2004, Cuba then placed a 20% surcharge on remittances, dollars coming into Cuba, which created, I hate this term, I don't know how to use a human being, but the term they use is mules. Carrying U.S. dollars into Cuba illegally, and giving it out to their relatives, which I completely understand. But with this going on, is there any? I mean, I don't want to know about the negotiations. I'm not going to ask you about negotiations in a public hearing, but it would be my hope that there is something being done in terms of remittances as we move toward normalization. Is that something that you're?
In the steps that we took, among other things, there was some easing of travel restrictions and remittances, so that that would be easier for families. But as importantly, telecommunications is opened up because exposure of Cubans to the West, to the United States, to our values is part of what we think will bring real lasting change in Cuba.
Western Union, actually you can send remittances through Western Union. But the concern is what I think it's a pretty heavy surcharge on U.S. dollar. My time is running out. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Time of the gentleman has expired.